Hey, good evening and welcome. We're going to call to order the Salem Keizer Public School District Budget Committee meeting for May 22nd, 2018. And we're just going to go over the agenda briefly. First, I'm going to take attendance, and all board members are present. We do have one committee member who is on the phone, and we also know that she viewed last night's Budget Committee meeting. So Rachel Dewey-Thorsett is on the phone, so she will actively participate this evening. So just quickly, we're going to change the agenda just a little bit this evening from last night. We are actually going to do public comment first because we know there are a substantial number of folks that have come out to give public comment. So we're going to do that first, and we are going to go all the way through. Thank you. We're going to go all the way through public comment because if we have the opportunity to finish this evening, we want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity this evening to speak, and we don't have to ask folks to come back tomorrow. So we'll do public comment, and then we will move into committee deliberations, and I'll go over the procedure again tonight for that, and we'll try to keep it on track tonight compared to the little bit of confusion we had last night about the deliberations. So we are going to start with public comment. So just as a reminder, or if you haven't given public comment previously, I will call you up by name, and I don't see addresses listed on the sign-up sheet, so I will need you to state your name and your full address so that we can record your address for public document. And you'll have up to 3 minutes, and because we have a full agenda, we will cut people off at 3 minutes this evening. So first up is Jessica Tucker.
My name is Jessica Tucker, and my address is 423 Fountain Valley Way Northeast, Salem, Oregon. Chair Blassie, Vice Chair Herrera-Lopez, Superintendent Perry, and members of the Budget Committee. I am a 4th grade teacher at Highland Elementary School, and Ed Excellence and the data teams process has been monumental in helping my practice as a teacher. I have learned how to use data and work collaboratively to best meet the needs of all of my students. Each year, through our partnership with Ed Excellence, we have learned a new aspect of the data teams process that has allowed us to dig deeper and get to the root of our individual students' strengths and needs. Additionally, we have learned ways to make inferences about why students have certain needs, making it easier to figure out and then create strategies to bridge these gaps. A task that may have seemed impossible to the individual teacher. Working as a group of teachers allows us to look at specific needs from all angles, sometimes in ways we never would have thought of, to create differentiated instruction, causing the best results for all students. While using the data teams process, we've been able to spend time creating units based off of the specific standards we are teaching. My data team has been fortunate enough to be the same for the last 3 years. Due to this fact, we've been able to use our units from previous years and build on them and adjust based off of our new student-specific needs and the new learning that we receive from Ed Excellence. Each year, we are able to add a new layer that has helped our students deepen their understanding of the content, benefiting both students and teachers. I could not imagine teaching without using the data team process that we have learned through Ed Excellence. It has taught us the importance of using data-driven instruction to analyze and implement strategies to facilitate learning. To me, data teams and Ed Excellence are a recipe for great teaching. Thank you.
Thank you. And I did want to just mention to committee members, you have some printouts from folks that emailed us comments. So as you have a chance, maybe read through those if you have a chance. And Alice is passing out some that we just received as well. Okay. So next up, we have Cassie Huntley.
My name is Cassie Huntley. I live at 1135 Jefferson Street, Northeast, Salem, Oregon, 97301. Chair Blassie, Vice Chair Herrera-Lopez, Superintendent Perry, and members of the Budget Committee. Data teams in the Ed Excellence way and having their support is not just about data. It is about intentional planning, intentional assessing, and intentional interventions. As teachers, we like to think we know what to do, but we are human, and in the busyness of life and in the busyness of assessments, we go into autopilot at times. It's very easy to fall back into that default mode. For many, default mode is looking at a plethora of scores, but not necessarily digging into what it shares about our students' understandings or misconceptions. Data team's process challenges us to stop and look at an assessment that has been very intentionally made. So it's not just a bunch of questions that you're giving your students, but you're very intentional in what you're looking at. Some weeks we are meaningful planning ahead, so it's not that every week is just sitting and looking at data. We're intentional about it. The how-to and very specific feedback and steps that Ed Excellence has provided us gets us out of autopilot, and it makes us think deeply about what we are doing. It's really easy to go in and say, oh, this student got this answer, this is why. Ed Excellence has challenged us, like they're there and they have challenged us and said, okay, can we think a little bit more deeply and around it? We aren't experts on how to make the most meaningful assessments yet. It's still taking honing, and we're still getting professional development from Ed Excellence with this. We need to continue to have that feedback. Also, the support in the last year that Ed Excellence has been a part of with our district maps and making data teams more productive has been huge. I'm a better teacher because of what I've learned from them. Last year, my team made it through 3 reading modules. There are 7 that we're supposed to get through. But it's very easy as teachers to say, you know what, my students haven't learned it yet, I'm gonna pause, or we're gonna keep going. And you know what, this year, what they have helped put forth has made many of us good teachers. And I would say I was a great teacher last year, but I'm a better teacher this year based off of what they've done. And it's not just pushing my students through, they have learned, they've grown, and even the best teachers can fall back into default mode and do things the way that we've always done. Right now is a crazy testing time, and you know what? I'm really glad that we have the data teams process and we had the time to sit down and make the core plan before we got to now, because otherwise we wouldn't be doing the great job that we are. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have, I'm sorry if I mispronounce this, Nubia Green. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nubia Green, and I live at 350 Sunset Avenue in Keizer, Oregon, 97303. Chair Blasi, Vice Chair Herrera Lopez, Superintendent Christy Perry, and the Budget Committee members. Data team is not just about data. It's about teachers coming together to find a high-leverage instructional strategy that can help us improve our teaching and outcomes in students. I heard yesterday that you are proposing to cut this funding to invest in AVID. I understand that AVID is an incredible program that impacts a group of students in middle and high schools. But I want to ask you to please consider that data team work impacts every single teacher and every single student in our elementary schools. It doesn't only support students, but it also encourages collaboration and data-informed decisions to make sure that every student has the opportunity to master the standards at their grade level and above in some cases. Thank you. And I also have a statement from a colleague of mine, and they passed out the papers. His name is Paul Mitchell Graham. And he lives in Salem, Oregon, and also teaches with me. May I read his statement?
We do yeah, we'll actually roll that over to another statement. So yes.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
yeah.
you. Okay.
I'm sorry, did you say his address?
He lives in Salem, Oregon.
Okay.
I don't know his address.
Okay, that's okay.
Okay.
We'll find it. Thank you.
As teacher to a new district and a new profession, I cannot speak any higher on the positive impact that collaborative planning and intercommunication data teams have been to my short, almost 2-year career. If you can call it a career, going into teaching, I knew the statistics for a teacher retention in the district, and I vowed that I would not be another 3-and-out teacher. That was before being immersed into the prestigious yet demanding line of work that is involved with education. Quickly, I found myself overwhelmed with so much, ranging from seating charts to fire drills to curriculum planning. I believe that it is safe to say that data teams and the supports that came with it helped me immensely with my planning, executing, and reflecting of lessons with my outstanding team. They were competent and extremely helpful as we worked together on building a plan of attack for multiple standards, evaluated pre-assessments, post-assessments, and exit tickets in between. Guidance from my teammates, administration, and outside coaches were and still are pivotal in my development as an effective educator. Multiple times, my team found ourselves at a crossroads with our planning. Multiple times, help came to us in the form of a friendly, qualified mentor. This availability goes further than just helping the new teacher or bringing an answer to a riddle. This collaborative planning, the opportunity to sit and think and plan and sweat and process and share with one another, has led to incredible growth in the classroom. Our kids have consistently shown improvements in every facet of our data team's process. Having a core plan and shared instructional strategy has strengthened the concepts and procedures of teaching and modeling a standard. I have no doubts that data teams has not only helped me keep my sanity and continue to want to be a teacher, but also, and more importantly, data teams and the supports of other mentors has played an invaluable role in moving our students forward in their educational career. And if that's not enough reason to strive to continue in this work, I'm not sure what is. Thanks, Mitchell Graham. Thank you.
Thank you. So next up, we have Josetta Boyden.
Good evening. My name is Josette Boyden. I live in Salem, 5212 Ohio Avenue. Salem 97317. Good evening, Chair Blasey, Vice Chair Herrera Lopez, and Superintendent Perry. The coaching from Ed Excellence have given us the structure for common language for the team process. It has helped us articulating and sharing ideas around this constructed standard and student success at the grade level, how it be taught in the classroom under a common focus. All this supported by the richness of good mentoring and gave us the language for teaching in the classroom. These mentors have sat at our table, found context for the support in the classroom, and share their resources and vision with the whole team. More so, in my career, I have witnessed and experienced the effort of the district have put forward in the vision of teamwork. It started with PLC and now data teams. It has also been the effort of a greater team coming together, mentors, coaches, principals, and teachers, reaching beyond personal differences and territorial bits of knowledge. These mentors can support teachers by giving them all the tools for the road, and the journey of interaction and dynamics rest in the hands of strong data teams. Thank you for considering that topic.
Thank you. Next up is Ingrid Ceballos.
Good afternoon. My name is Ingrid Ceballos. My address is 1100 East Virginia Street, Staten, Oregon, 97383. Chair Blasey, Vice Chairman, Vice Chair Herrera Lopez, Superintendent Perry, and members of the Budget Committee. I am the instructional mentor at Richmond Elementary. Prior to working at Richmond, I was a teacher at Air Elementary for 10 years. In both of these roles, I have had the opportunity to work with Ed Excellence in different capacities. As an educator in the classroom, I attended weekly data team meetings. At the end of these meetings, my team left with lesson plans in hand for a week. These lessons were standard-based and created collaboratively. At the heart of the data teams is the collaborative planning for instruction using high-leverage common instructional strategies. The data collected for pre-assessments created by the team was used to strategically target students' instructional needs. The tools for data collections are teacher-created, teacher-collected, and teacher-analyzed. Teachers have developed this sophisticated practice because of the support from Ed Excellence. Prior to work with edX, there was no system to ensure systematic instruction of standards in an equitable way. The work with edX has provided us with a viable curriculum that considers the needs of our highly mobile student population. As an instructional mentor, the professional development I have received from edX has deepened my understanding of standards, learning progression, and assessment creation. In turn, I have supported our teachers in deepening their understanding on these topics. While I can go on and on about our impactful experiences with edX, I'd like to share a few quotes from other colleagues from different sites. I was going to do that, however, these have already been shared with you, and I urge you to please read them. I also urge the committee to please consider all teacher voices when considering funding for edX. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Angel DeBerry. Sorry, thank you. Sorry.
My name is Angel DeBerry, and my address is 3565 Trilstead Avenue, South Salem. I am a second-year teacher at Chavez Elementary School. At Chavez, we have weekly data team meetings with our grade level teams. We use this time to share our ideas and to optimize our classroom instruction time, and also to work through challenges we may face while teaching a particular standard in the classroom. Not only has the data team process helped me to become a better teacher in regards to the shared standards, but it has also had unexpected positive results. I have learned how to backwards plan my own lessons, how to effectively deliver a lesson, and I have a better relationship with my colleagues. Most importantly, I am able to use the data collected during the data team process to measure my effectiveness with my colleagues so that I'm just not living in my own classroom bubble. Data teams has opened up dialogue where it's okay to not have all the answers, especially as a new teacher. It creates a safe environment to ask questions and learn from others. Though the data team process is not always easy, I can say that the benefits associated with teachers collaborating have outweighed any challenges along the way. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Paige Oliver.
Paige Oliver, 415 Brook Street, Silverton, Oregon. Chair Blasey, Vice Chair Herrera-Lopez, Superintendent Perry, and members of the Budget Committee. I'm here to talk about my support in the importance of edX and their work with us as teachers. I have been working with edX for the last 4 years here in Salem Keizer at Richmond Elementary. And to say that they have had an impact on my teaching is an understatement. It was one of the reasons I chose to come to Richmond when I started, because I knew we were doing the data team process. I have participated in the data team process with my school. I have been a facilitator for a data team, and I have had the opportunity to participate in their assessment training and the projection map creation that we have done to work with our new curriculum. The data team process that edX guides us through is very important in student achievement, especially in the elementary world that I live in. The projection maps enable teachers to go deeper in their understanding of the Common Core state standards and strengthen their core instruction, which correlates with student achievement. The maps that we developed with Ed Excellence keeps teachers on the same pacing schedule. This directly impacts our population because of the high amount of mobility, as they are not going to have holes in their learning, because we are covering the standards in the same order and during the same time period, no matter what school you are in. It also ensures that all teachers have a guide to fit in all of the standards within a school year. The time I save by participating in the data team process is priceless. It's not a fast process, though, and there has to be buy-in. 4 years in, and I have a solid base for instruction that from my student growth is working. They have helped me understand learning progressions, which is understanding what is taught below me and above me so I can help target what my students actually need moving forward throughout the year. Data teams drive my instruction. It tells me as a teacher if my students are understanding and mastering concepts and standards. edX guides us teachers through the process so that we can analyze the data we collect, and through that data I can differentiate and accommodate the diverse learners in my classroom. Following the data process makes it easier to look at how students are doing and make quick instructional changes accordingly. You don't have to do it alone. The collaboration of a data team helps strengthen instruction with different teachers, coaches, and administrators' ideas. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next up, we have Rita Glass.
Good evening. My name is Rita Glass, and I reside at 4384 Falcon View Way, Northeast Salem 97305. Good evening, Chair Blasey, Vice Chair Herrera-Lopez, Superintendent Perry, and members of the Budget Committee. I speak to you this evening on behalf of our ASCII ESP President. First of all, I would like to thank you, and we are very grateful for you making the addition of some funds for the school-based health assistance at the elementary school level. We have felt heard, and we are very grateful for that. I do know that it's $250,000 and $38, and I know to fund them all, it would be $400,000, which is leaving us lacking $149,962. And so that seems like a little bit. I just wanted to share a story that we heard at a recent rep assembly meeting. And I know that some of our schools, such as Auburn, have additional office staff because of the numbers that they serve. However, our special programs IA was out at recess duty, was dealing with a behavior. Another student fell and was bleeding. She called the office, and even though they have additional help at the office, no one could come. The office manager was inputting payroll that had to be done on the last day, the last hour. The other office staff were dealing with parents and staff. No one could come out to assist. And that would not be the case if the school-based health assistant was there, as the other office staff were administering medications and dealing with that. So we ask that if you could please look again at this proposed budget to see if you can squeeze out $149,962 to fund school-based health assistants to meet the needs of our students in elementary school. So I thank you again for putting some money there. The other thing I wanted to mention that kind of hits home with me, because I was a bilingual IA for many years, is the cut in the FTE for those positions. With that, for the schools that won't be able to backfill those hours, there's some side effects of that. And one of those is communication with parents. They communicate with parents a lot for the teachers who don't have time to do so, with phone calls home and so forth. They even assist with the home visits. They also do many duties. And they also interpret from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. during conferences. And so those are things I would like you to consider, especially I know there's going to be some schools that won't be able to backfill those hours. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Mark Atkinson?
Good evening. My name is Mark Atkinson. I reside at 2262 Banyonwood Avenue Northwest, Salem, Oregon 97304. Chairman Blassi, Co-Chair Herrera Lopez, Superintendent Perry, and the members of the Budget Committee. Thank you for your work. You have difficult decisions to make. The needs are great. The resources are not. We've heard passionate comments over the last month about the needs and the needs of students. I attended a early career listening session that the superintendent had last week, and every member at my table mentioned the value of having a mentor. Some only get one for a year. Some of them said they were fortunate that they got a mentor for 3 years, someone who they could cry with, confidentially talk about life and school. The need is great. The need for our early educators is great. One of your strategic plan initiatives is to recruit and retain. It's important that you provide the supports necessary for teachers to do their job. I would also ask that you would vote with a lens that looks at teacher voice and teacher workload. There are great organizations, some for profit, some for not, that can help us achieve our goals. But if we do this at the expense of teacher voice and teacher workload, we will be unable to recruit and retain the teachers we need to do the job here in Salem Keizer. I've taught a long time. 20 years ago, we were paid to go and learn how to be data team leads. Perhaps that is not effective anymore. It was effective for me because I had voice in my team and with my students. We were trained to develop assessments. Now at CTEC, I'm able to work with a cohort. We look at data strategically. We develop lessons that incorporate English, math, technology, and other programs to benefit our students. The data for our success is good. It's getting better, and we hope that it will continue. We have that success because we have teacher voice, we have teacher control, and we have support from our administration to make the decisions that are best for our students. So as you vote, please think about how this vote will affect teacher voice and teacher workload. Thank you.
Thank you. Lindsey White.
My name is Lindsey White. I live at 1330 Manzanita Street in Keizer, Oregon, 97303. Chair Blassie, Vice Chair Herrera Lopez, and Superintendent Perry, and the members of the Budget Committee. I began teaching the first year that Ed Excellence came to our district. As a new teacher, Missy with Ed Excellence came to our school and she started coaching with us. She did not, however, collect data for our school. Missy came alongside my kindergarten data team and she taught me how to look at standards and how to let those standards drive instruction and create assessments. She walked my team through how to use all of our results to create instruction. It is during this time that my team would collaborate and talk about what is working in our classrooms. Then we were able to give our post-assessments and plan for intervention. This is yet another opportunity that my team had to collaborate and talk about what is and is not working in our classrooms. Ed Excellence has taught me how to look at growth through pre and post assessments, how to break down the standards and collaborate well with my team. This work is grueling, it's frustrating, it requires serious communication with your team, with my team, and that communication is not always easy. It shows exactly where your weakness is as a teacher because it pokes holes in your instruction. But in order to do that, it also it shows us where we can improve as teachers. This is what's best for our. This is what produces the best instruction for our kids, and we are here for the kids. Every week, we have 1 hour dedicated to collaborating with our grade level team, and it is one of the most productive hours of the week. This is when I do the majority of planning for my classroom, and along with PBIS, Ed Excellence has provided the most valuable PD that I have received as a teacher. It was stated that one of the biggest complaints about data teams is that there is no time for teachers to share what is working in their classrooms. Well, I would suggest that these teachers need more time with Ed Excellence and not less. Through this, they will see that the process leads itself to collaboration and discussion about what is or is not working in the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you. Alyssa Becker? I'm sorry, and also, so coming up together, Alyssa Becker and Melisa Chavez. Thank you.
Hi there. My name is Alyssa Becker. I live at 1174 McGee Court, Keizer, Oregon, 97303.
And my name is Melisa Chavez, and I live in 17570 Southwest Devonshire Way in Sherwood, Oregon, 97140.
Chair Blassie, Vice Chair Herrera Lopez, and Superintendent Perry, and members of the Budget Committee. We decided to come up together today because we are on a data team together. We've taught at Auburn for 4 years, second grade, and we're both ESOL and bilingual, and so we wanted to talk about kind of how Ed Excellence has supported us in our development as teachers, and then how our collaboration has really been improved and in working with students. So data teams and the professional development opportunities provided through Ed Excellence have taught us how to organize and align our teaching better to serve all of our students. Additionally, they have allowed us to unify our plans, assessments, strategies, and expectations with our grade level team. And yeah, go ahead, Melissa.
Yeah, so from the bilingual perspective, this has helped me a lot. When we are collaborating together with the ESOL and bilingual, we are able to help each other and try out different strategies that the other didn't know about, because there are differences and we have learned different things in our trainings. And through data teams and collaboration with looking at our data and finding better strategies to use with our students, we have learned a lot with each other's different trainings. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, through these valuable trainings and intentional collaborations, we're more confident in our own abilities to teach and in our team members' ability to teach, as they're all our kids. We're able to meet standards and differentiate better and assess our students appropriately. These professionals that have come alongside us and our team times have given us the tools and the resources to achieve our hope of meeting the needs of every student. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie Shumway.
Good evening. My name is Katie Shumway. I reside at 1348 South 7th Street in Independence, Oregon, 97351. Good evening, Chair Blasey, Vice Chair Herrera-Lopez, Superintendent Perry, and members of the Budget Committee. I'm here tonight as the principal of Auburn Elementary School, proud of my staff, and I would like to speak to you regarding the impact Salem Keizer School District's partnership with Educational Excellence has had on student growth and achievement at our school. We know from John Hattie that effect size matters when it comes to student growth and achievement. Therefore, it is important to note that 4 of the highest impact factors, according to Hattie, are truly what our data team's work is all about. These factors and their effect sizes are as follows: instructional strategies, 1.2 effect size; strategies emphasizing learning intentions and strategies emphasizing feedback, 1.29 effect size each; collective teacher efficacy, 1.57 effect size, the second highest impact factor on the list. Remember that an effect size of 0.4 indicates 1 year of growth. As Superintendent Perry stated last night, edX does not collect, track, or analyze data for us. Rather, our coaches from edX help us maintain our focus on high-impact factors that help increase student growth and achievement, such as those I've previously listed. As an educational professional, I don't view edX as an organization that makes it easier for me to look at data. Instead, I think of myself as a bit of a primary care provider, if you'll allow the analogy. As a building administrator, my job is to keep an eye on all of our major systems, our major organs, our central nervous system, our brain, our heart. But like a primary care provider, there are times I need to call in a specialist. Sometimes I need the head of the cardio department to come for a consult because that's what's best for my patient. This is what edX is to me as a school principal. Our edX coach specializes in helping us to improve our general practice as educators, which leads to an increased student growth and achievement. As a building administrator, I call in my edX coach to support my teachers because that's what's best for kids. $350,000 is a lot of money, and our kids are worth every penny. Finally, I'm pleased to know that members of the Budget Committee have reached out to the teachers of Salem Keizer School District to gather input. I would further like to invite any of you to come and visit Auburn Data Teams. We meet at 7:45 on Friday morning for an hour. There's no need to RSVP. We're always there, and we're proud to show off what we do for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Tyler? I'm sorry. I knew I was going to.
That's all right. So I'm Tyler Skella Lakeberg.
Thank you.
I reside at 4283 Lemon Street, Northeast Salem, Oregon. And tonight I'm here to talk on behalf of SKEA and our 2,300 members. So thank you, Chair Blasey, Vice Chair Herrera-Lopez, Superintendent Perry, and the members of the committee. I don't envy you in the job that you have ahead of you. In the times of such limited funding, this is a huge challenge, and we appreciate the work you're doing and the willingness to listen. But we also know that we have opportunities for some very purposeful spending. And we've been talking a lot about ed excellence and data teams, and I would like to address some of those concerns that I'm hearing from many of our members. Teachers want to collaborate. We do collaborate. It's what we do. We collaborate in the hallways, at lunchtime, before school, after school, at recess. Several years ago, our district carved out time within our school day to provide time for that collaboration, and that was very appreciated with the starting of our professional learning teams and data teams. Over the years, we've gotten better at it. We've learned how to be more focused, deconstruct our standards, align, learn from each other, best strategies, best practices, analyze our student data, look for areas of intervention and reteaching to move all of our students ahead. We've been doing this work, and it's been working, and I applaud the teachers, especially the ones that came up tonight, because they're amazing, and they're doing some wonderful work. And what you heard is a lot of them describe that they've now come into a process where we know how to do this well. So I wonder, do we need to pay $350,000 to an outside agency when we have the resources, when we have the knowledge to do this work? We have instructional mentors at our sites, and we have dwindling district mentors that also helped in this work previously. When teachers come together, we do amazing things. It's best strategies, it's best practices. We don't want to take that away. We want our data teams and our PLCs to continue. But when you look at 22 schools with Ed Excellence, 5 are being shining results. I would say that results because of the wonderful teachers that are there, the systems in place, and they're doing it right. If you remove Ed Excellence, they're going to continue to do it right. What about the other 17 schools that have had them? I get very different stories from those teachers. I get stories that say that the Ed Excellence does come in, and now they're focusing on a data form, and that each week they have to refill out the form, or the feedback has been about what they've done wrong on the form. And I've had many teachers, even down to tears, say, there was no celebration that all of my students were on grade level, or the huge growth, or the kids that are falling behind, help me with there. It was about, you missed this part of the data team form. So when we look at the success rate, we have about a 23% success rate if we're going to credit that to Ed Excellence. So I challenge you to think about, is $350,000 the best use of our money when we know this work will continue, and it will continue with excellence from our teachers? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mindy Merritt.
Thank you. Chair Blassie, Vice Chair Herrera-Lopez, Superintendent Perry, and Budget Committee. My name is Mindy Merritt, and I'm here to speak tonight as President of Salem Keizer Education Association. I live at 2381 Teal Drive, Salem, Oregon. First and foremost, I want it to be very clear that I believe that each and every one of us is here tonight because each and every one of us believe in students, and we believe in education. There's no doubt about that. We're here for students. As an association, I also want to be very clear that as an association, I also want to be really clear that we believe in data teams. We're not trying to say that we don't believe in data teams. I don't want to get the message that we don't. We support the idea of grade level collaboration. We support working together. We absolutely support utilizing high leverage instructional strategies. We have not said that we don't. We believe in that. We know that's the right work. What we're saying is, and what we've been trying to say is, we need to have teachers, classroom teachers, and their voice to be heard. And the top-down approach in which our voice is not being heard is not acceptable. It's wearing our teachers out. When our grade level teachers are told what they need to be studying, what their topic needs to be, it becomes really frustrating. And our grade levels, data teams, they feel like it's a waste of their time. They feel like the data isn't being utilized, that they're not coming back to it. They're frustrated. The individual educators that you heard from tonight are highly respected individuals within our district. Absolutely respected. And they are all coming from schools that have highly respected administrators and a highly respected level director. And you're right, their data teams are working. We have an array of data teams within our district that work really well and absolutely are right, exactly what we want. But we also have data teams that are not working. And that's what we're here talking about. And as we pour and pour money into them 4 years in, they're still not working, and we're still every week coming to the table, and the same grade level teams are working at it, and we're still not working. That's when we're saying, why is it not working? And now we're at 3 years. As a president, I've been saying it's not working, and my members are coming every time and saying it's still not working. That's why we're asking for change. That's why we're here today. We're for data teams. We are for high level strategic collaboration and high leverage instructional strategies. We are for working together. Please, let's help find a better solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. Jasmine. So next up is Jasmine Guzman. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name.
Chair Blasi, Vice Chair Rita Lopez, Superintendent Perry, and members of the Budget Committee. My name is Jasmine Guzman. I reside at 478 Hawthorne Avenue here in Salem. I am here to speak to you as a teacher. I started teaching 2 years ago. I completed my student teaching in the Salem Keizer School District, and I now work for our district. The supports I have received in the past few years have helped me shape who I am as a teacher. To begin, I was exposed to the data teams in my clinical school, which gave me a sense of what was going on and served to prepare me for my future job. Having a sense of the data team process coming into my first year helped me out a lot. In the beginning, data teams can be challenging, but having edX improves the understanding of the process and how we function as a team. I came to Auburn when they were already functioning. I believe they were in their second year or third year of the process. As your new teacher, this was helpful because our teams were established and they had a sense of where they were going due to all the prior training they had and the prior work they did with Ed Excellence. Every year before school begins, we have professional development days. The PDs allow us to have a clear sense of the data team process. We focus on a step that our team still needs to improve on, and we have a coach who guides us to every step. During the summer, we also have the opportunity to attend to a conference that is part of the Education Excellence. In this conference, we review the data team process in depth. This was the first conference I attended to on my first year of teaching. It was long, but overall one of the best experiences in regards to my learning as a teacher, especially for being a novice teacher then. In data teams, we do not only look at the data and numbers. The majority of the time is spent creating our core plan, which guides our instruction. This core plan includes instructional strategies that our team will be using to teach our given standards. We also administer assessments created by us. After we give the assessments, we use the data and analyze the strengths and misconceptions misconceptions that our students had in order to guide and improve our teaching. Together, as a team, we also use projection maps that were created by our district to help us keep in track. I believe none of this would be possible if our school was not part of our edX team. Thank you.
Thank you. And let's see. Sally, I apologize now. I know I'm going to mispronounce your last name. So I'll just not say it.
Good evening. My name is Sally Sukamaki, and I'm a third grade teacher at Auburn, and I live at 2464 Egret Avenue Southeast, Salem. Chair Blasi, Vice Chair Herrera Lopez, Superintendent Perry, and members of the Budget Committee. The coaching that I have received from Ed Excellence has absolutely transformed my teaching practices by making me a significantly stronger teacher and third grade team member and facilitator for our team. My team and I have become skilled in analyzing student data by continually evaluating student work on a daily basis. This data gives us huge insight into students' strengths and weaknesses, which in turn allows us to make sound instructional decisions to meet the needs of all of our students. Data is vital in the sense that we need it in order to know what it is that our kids know and what they don't know. Data drives our instruction in the classroom, and I have seen firsthand how it impacts student growth and achievement. I attribute this amazing growth to Auburn's work with Ed Excellence. And I also want to say that our school has made a tremendous amount of growth. We went from 1s to 4s on our state report card in just 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you. So that is the last of our public comment, and so we're going to move back into committee deliberations. And so, as I mentioned, we're going to go over just the procedures again, just very quickly. So going back to procedures for changing the proposed budget, members of the committee will have the opportunity to identify a change, and that's when we'll go ahead and put them up on the board if we have additional proposed changes this evening. And then beginning with the first proposed change, the committee member who recommended the change will give a brief 1 to 2 minute explanation of why they believe the change should be made and the impact to the budget. And then after the explanation, other members of the committee will be asked by a show of hands whether or not the addition I'd like to change to remain on the list. So that'll be the show of hands about whether or not the items stay on the list. And then once we have the final list, we will move into the actual final discussions, and that's when we'll move into Robert's rules and have ask for a motion, and then whether or not there's a second, and then move into discussion.
Sorry about that.
Your time's up.
Chair only gets 3 minutes.
Your time's up. Okay, so we are moving on.
Yeah.
Oops. That was So I'm going to ask whether or not there are additional proposed changes. Okay, so I'm going to start with Marty and then to Mark. And at this point, we're only putting changes up on the board. So we're not discussing them, we're just putting them on the board.
So mine's not really going to fit because I just came to this realization this evening that if there was something we could do to increase our health workers, and I would look at the district to advise as to what would be cut instead.
Okay, I don't know. So
I can't see what
yeah.
to get rid of
Yeah.
because it's like, you know,
Right.
just listening and
Right.
making a decision. If we could find the money, and maybe we don't have it now even, but sometimes we get extra money. If we can find
Right.
the funds to increase it more, I would like to do
Sharon,
that.
can I speak to
Yes.
that? I'm a little out of order, but this is dovetailing off of what Marty's talking about.
Okay, so one point though is part of the process is if you're proposing a change, then there has to be an identification of where those funds would come from. So, but I do appreciate what you're saying about potential for the future addition.
But you can't do that if you just now realize you need to do something. There's no time for me unless I take a break now to look through and come up with something to remove.
Right. But I think we've had, so anyway, we won't debate it here, but I think we've had quite a bit of time. So go ahead, Kathleen.
Sorry, Mark. So essentially, I'd like to make a proposal that we fully fund the student-based health assistant at the $400,000 level that was previously mentioned, with the monies coming from the contingency fund to help fill in that gap. I think we've had very compelling public testimony that we've all witnessed, and we know the importance of school, of student safety, and
okay.
I'll leave it
So
at
we'll
that.
go ahead and put that up on the board because you did identify a potential funding source, so thank you. But we're not going to debate or discuss them right now. We're just going to get them on the board. Okay, yes, hold on. So Mark's next. Go
So
ahead.
mine is actually not a
proposal. Mine is a question of clarification from last night's adjustment. Just something came to me as I was reviewing that. Superintendent Perry, you said that there was an adjustment based on better understanding of where we are in the current year to the ending fund balance of $5 million.
Correct.
Can you help us understand, are there any trends in that $5 million find at this late in a budget year that would help us understand how the budget works and unfolds?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're getting, actually, it's just that functionality around an automated system that we don't have history on. And we've always made some assumptions, and sometimes those assumptions don't come true actually until after the board has adopted the budget and the auditors come in. So because we have a better tracking mechanism for it, we can catch it earlier versus waiting till June 30th. And so it's really just every single payroll cycle, you get better and better about your projections in an automated system.
So my follow-on to that is the budget proposal that you had for 18-19, which is what we're discussing now, was premised on the numbers that we now know are $5 million less. Are there any particular line items that we might now adjust based on that better understanding that would be some additional found money to help with some of these minor tweaks that we're talking about?
I don't think I'd know that offhand. And what I'll tell you, though, is we are, as we tighten this budget and as we're going into the next biennium, and because our accuracy is so much greater in our budgeting, we're going to have less and less non-predictability in it. So I think we don't have good trends. The automated system this is our first full year with it, but it'll be tighter margins than it's ever been. So I don't think the trends there's no fluff built into the system for that.
I guess I understand.
Yeah, I know.
So
Yeah. I just don't think I have a good answer of where that would be.
And just a reminder, because we have folks we have one committee member on the phone, I need to recognize you so she knows who's speaking. Okay. So Kathy?
This is Kathy Goss for whoever is on the phone. And my ears perked up when you said $5 million. And of course, I would like to spend some of that.
Kathy already did.
Oh, well, I might adjust your end and put it on my end. But I'm thinking, and it bothered me last night, it bothered me again this morning, and as I campaigned, and I'm sure as the others on this board campaigned for our positions, some things kept coming up, and some things were so important to parents, more important than others. And quite frankly, what they referred to continually were two benchmarks. And I'm just absolutely convinced that we need to focus on that. And one is third grade reading. And I would try and tell people I would do everything in my power to see that we have all children reading by the third grade. If that doesn't happen, that affects that child's life for all the rest of the years. That's why I think it's so absolutely important.
So Kathy, I'm sorry, I'm going to ask you to state your suggestion for the board, so then we can go into the discussion.
So my suggestion is maybe broader. So I want some of that money, if not all of it, to focus on third grade reading. And how that teacher determines how that child learns will be where my focus goes. And I think the same thing has to happen in graduation. And as we go along, those are the two things that citizens focus on.
Yes.
And I don't have magic answers. I wish I could tell you, well, it's this series we should adopt or that series. not necessarily. Maybe it's more mentors in those areas. I
Okay.
can't put a thumb on it.
So you're proposing we move $5 million from the superintendent's proposed amended budget
I am suggesting that.
to third grade reading and
Third
graduation rate.
grade reading and graduation, and they are tied
Okay.
together. It's
Yes.
really one
Right,
problem.
okay. Okay. Jesse?
Sure. Can I make a motion to remove a motion?
We're not making motions at this point, but you can remove an item if you introduced it.
Okay, so how about we erase item 1 and reword it for clarification and profound knowledge of Title II funds. So I would like to make this a suggestion to
Okay.
write it as reallocating $300,000 from the Ed Excellence and use that money to fund the mentorship program for teachers.
Great, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Okay. Rachel, I just wanted to check in with you. I know you're on the phone. Did you have any?
I don't have any.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can, thank you.
Okay. I'm getting some feedback. But I don't have any suggestions. I will eventually have questions about some of the suggestions.
Okay.
that made.
Great, thank you.
And then
Do you have another one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm not sure, you could please correct me if, because this is the first budget process, so I'm not sure if this is something that has to be done by the board, just because it's a little bit more in-depth than previously. So I would recommend that the district reallocate $100,000 from the AVID administration budget and to instead be a stipend for teachers who are currently volunteer their time for AVID. Now, is that too deep to be budget committee work? Is that board work, or could that be, since there's a dollar attached and a location, could that be budget work?
I think it's superintendent work.
Oh.
I
Hire me
don't.
on.
What's that?
It's contractual.
It's contract. So we would need to have contractual agreements. I don't know what conditions you'd add a stipend
Yeah.
or to, and there's differentials for certain places, so it's a contractual.
Okay.
So that's superintendent work.
Okay, scratch that one. Thank you.
Any others? We have the three. Paul?
I would like to take $335,000 out of the beginning fund balance for the drug and alcohol counselors that we did not hire in 17-18 and were reduced under the superintendent's original budget. And I didn't see added back in.
So just for clarification, to add it back in to this? Okay.
Because it's on page 12 as one of the reductions. And since we have the extra $5 million potentially in beginning fund balance.
I'm just taking a quick look since you mentioned a page number.
Page 12. It was, yeah, that's right there in drug and alcohol.
Okay. Okay. Others that you'd like to add?
Can we clarify for one of those, mine in particular?
We're going to do we're going to go through the process where you get a minute to two to speak to your proposed change, and then we're going to, one by one, do by show of hands whether or not it stays on the list. So you'll get 1 to 2 minutes to talk about your proposed change, and then if it stays on the list, then we will, like we said, we'll go into Robert's rules and we'll have the discussion.
Well, that's all fine, but I wanted a clarification. And before I leave it on there and we vote, I think it needs to be clarified, or we're voting on something I don't understand.
So clarification for yours, or
Or
that you added?
mine. So the superintendent did add counselors and added a drug and alcohol counselor and added nurses. But I think that was prior to adding the $5 million or discovering that we had that.
No, that
So
was-
I would like to clarify with superintendent whether those things are the 5,000 or we have any extra.
Yeah, no, those, I brought in the beginning fund balance adjustment of 5 million as revenue, and then the expenditures below spent that revenue. So if you look at the memo, and it would be page 13 in your budget book.
Right. I'm coming. So you're telling me it's
I already
the same
spent it.
five
Yeah, I already spent it.
million? Okay, thank you.
I wish it wasn't.
I wish it wasn't too.
Okay, so we will start with item number 1, and this is Jesse's to reallocate the $300,000 from Ed Excellence content to the mentor program. And again, based on our procedures, you'll have about 2 minutes to speak to your proposed change, and then we will vote on it.
Sure.
And that's just to keep it on the list or not.
Okay, sure, thank you. First, I want to thank all of our teachers who came to speak on data teams. And Ed Excellence, I really appreciate you taking the time to come out. And again, as we're talking about allocating resources, we want to keep in mind that that we're all supposed to be on the same team, right? It's mainly just how do we use these funds to best help students? And I mean, of course, that's where we get into the wiggle room. So if all of you, in front of all you budget members, I put 9 emails that I received in less than 24 hours regarding Ed Excellence and teachers' thoughts on it. Some of them go with the fact of this, and I believe one of them in here does not. For transparency's sake, I decided to include it at them all. However, I also have an additional 20 that I neglected to print due to running out of paper, which saves you time and me money for college. So if you guys would like them, I can forward them to you. But I just want to let you know that this isn't just me throwing something out in the woodwork. It is a common problem that many teachers feel needs to be addressed. So I'm not suggesting that we get rid of the process of teachers talking to each other, collecting data. In fact, that's why we left an additional $50,000 in the budget. Our suggestion is to bring everything internal. So that way, one, we're not paying an external source to do this for us. And then secondly, to empower our teachers and spend time empowering teachers. I really appreciate many of our Auburn staff and teachers coming in here to speak today. Although Auburn has seen great success, there are many of our schools that have not. And if you're looking at the ratio of success for Ed Excellence versus not having success, I would say that 5 schools out of the many that we have is not a very good success rate. And so I would say, as a district this large, it is vital for us to take a look at reallocating funds to something that may be more effective.
Thank you. So we are going to go ahead and vote.
See if we, 6 to keep it on the list.
Okay, so we're going to vote by show of hands. So all of those in favor of proposal number 1 indicate your interest in keeping it on the list by raising your hand.
I'll keep it on the list.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I can't see Rachel's hand. So Rachel, yes or no?
I think I'm a no. I still have many qualms about it.
Okay, so we do have 6. We did have 6. So that will stay on the list. And we'll move to the second proposal. And this was Kathleen's proposal to fully fund school-based health administrators with funding coming from the contingency plan. So you'll have 2 minutes
Sure. And I want to appreciate the superintendent's adding money into her budget proposal to partially fund this. I think it shows that she really listened to the concerns and realized how important they are. I think there's 3 reasons I'd like to see more funding go to that. Primarily student safety, for prompt treatment of the students as needed, proper and timely medication administration. The district does bear some responsibility with regards to addressing the proper handling and management of controlled substances. As we're all aware, controlled substance abuse is very prominent in our society, and it starts at an earlier and earlier age. I think it's absolutely imperative that we have control in the way these things are managed, and we reduce the risk of diversion. And then lastly, I think as we're looking at things through an equity lens, it's important that all of our schools are handled in an equitable fashion. I think fully funding this proposal would allow that to happen.
Thank you. So we'll, same process, we'll vote by a show of hands in favor of keeping this proposed modification. So go ahead and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, I'm going to stop counting. It stays on the list.
I have one clarification on that. Kathleen, you had mentioned the fully funding it was around $400,000.
Yeah, I believe the superintendent had mentioned 400,000.
It was around 400.
So I'm just going to put that up.
Okay.
Yeah. So to clarify, that we added back about 250, but the fully funding would be 400. So we have
About a 150 add.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So number 3, reallocate, and this is Kathy's, reallocating $5 million from the proposed budget to third grade reading.
Well, actually, it was third grade reading and graduation
Sorry,
rates.
we'll add that.
To correct what's there. So I can't underestimate how important those two things are. I look at the parents in the district watching us and watching our budget function. They want to be represented, and they want to see things happen. And those are the two things that I saw happening the most. I see that they're connected. If a child goes off the rails at third grade, it isn't easily corrected the way we're operating now. And I would like to see money spent to reduce to a small group that we can put in a class that we can wrap all kinds of services around, including a counselor that's aware of what drug and alcohol things are aware in our community that are free of charge, or that we can get parents seeking help as well as children by third grade. When you look at the high school one, that's also very difficult, but I think that when we're losing teachers, and we are losing more than appears reasonable, I think that files into the graduation rate and the behavioral patterns we're seeing. And I would like to put more money, and I realize I don't want to take everything the superintendent had, but I think we could find some more money to weasel out of her. I'll leave it at
You can
that.
take anything off the list that I put on there. That's where, yeah.
Okay. So same procedure, by a show of hands, decision whether to reallocate $5 million to third grade reading and graduation rates.
Can we ask a question?
There's questions.
No question.
Not at this point. No, that'll be under deliberations, and this is just whether they stay on the list or not.
So that we can discuss it.
Right. Yeah. But if they don't get the vote, they come off the list. Yeah. Okay.
Then
So,
they can ask their questions
right.
about something that isn't on the list to see if we can keep it on the list.
So,
Yeah.
no hands in that end.
Paul's
So,
up.
3, 4, 5. I count 5.
okay.
Unless Rachel has a vote.
6?
Okay.
I think I'm a no on this one.
Okay, thank you. So go ahead and put your hands up again and hold them
Yep,
up just
just
for a
make sure.
second so we can,
I get to vote.
2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5. And for this one, we needed 6, so we didn't quite make the list. So number 4, reallocating $335,000 back to the budget for drug and alcohol counselors, and this was,
Right, out of the beginning fund balance?
thank you, sorry.
Sorry, it's my handwriting.
Yeah.
So drug and alcohol counselor.
And that was Paul's?
Yep, they were included in last year's supplemental budget, and I think we still need them. It's not been clear to me why we didn't fill the spots But I still believe we have the drug and alcohol issues at the various schools. My understanding, the 4 counselors that were included in the, under the add-ins, those were not drug and alcohol specifically. That was to put a counselor, an extra counselor in all of the comprehensive high schools. So I still think we need them. That's it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
This is a technical question.
Okay.
So can we actually take money out of a beginning fund balance?
So the beginning fund balance is stated in the budget book as revenue. And so it's all brought in as revenue, and it's all expended throughout the budget, proposed budget. So you can't really take it from the beginning fund balance itself because it's already stated as revenue and we've expended that. So you'd have to pull a different expenditure.
Okay, so we need a modification to this before we can vote on it.
Okay. Hold on. Okay, so based on the technical point and the fact that we're not able to do that, do you have a?
I'd love to take it out of Avid.
Okay.
And I'll let them decide where it comes out of.
Okay. Are you?
I think that's a good place to serve the whole district, the $343,000.
Okay.
Out of the 900,000
Okay.
plus that we spend on Avid already.
Okay, so reallocating moving 335 from AVID to drug and alcohol counselors.
353. Sorry.
Okay. So same process by show of hands, keeping this one on the list.
Again, this is to discuss it, right?
This is to keep it on the list. If it doesn't get 6 votes, it comes off the list. Okay.
Want to discuss
1,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5. Can you hear Rachel?
No.
No? Okay, thank you. So it received 5 votes, so it does not stay on the list. Okay. So now we are to the 2 remaining items, and this is where we'll move into Robert's rules. And so starting with the first, I'll need not a speech, but a proposal. At this point, it's just a motion. Thank you. Sorry, not a proposal. We'll need a motion, but no comments to your motion, just the motion.
Oh, just the motion, that's it?
Just the motion, right.
Oh,
This is
okay.
the official part.
Wow, this feels super official. Alrighty, so I move the Budget Committee to recommend the district to reallocate $300,000 from the Ed Excellence program and use that money to fund the mentorship program for teachers.
Great. We need a second.
I'm waiting for a second. Is there-
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second by committee member Lippold and Kylo. So now moving into Robert's rules, you can speak to your motion, but we'll ask that you've given us the introduction, so
Sure.
So speak to the motion, and then it'll be open to committee members, but same process. Please use Robert's rules, raise your hand, and I'll call on you so that Rachel can hear who's speaking.
Okay, thank you. Do I have to announce who I am to Rachel?
No, go ahead, Jesse.
Hey, Rachel, this is Jesse. You look great today. All right, so with Ed Excellence, a lot of the feedback that we heard were like teachers running the teams. We heard about the excellent professional development, how they can leave with a lesson in hand, they learn how to make lessons, the teachers collaborate, and they save time. Now, these are all things that we can still do without the brand of Ed Excellence. And so spending all the money purely on Ed Excellence, I believe is not a great reallocation of our resources that we're supposed to be responsible with. So by leaving $50,000 in there, that allows us to still spend the time for collecting the data and do everything that Ed Excellence do in-house. By moving the $300,000 into the mentorship program, we can not only get professional development, but we can provide a better quality professional development than that we're getting from Ed Excellence, which we've heard a lot of really good feedback about the personal development. However, if you look at those 5 schools versus the rest of our schools that we have as a whole district, I would say that the amount of districts that schools that are not benefiting from this greatly outnumber that. And I think that we need to think about all students, not just certain students that live in a certain area. And I would also argue that maybe the success of data teams in those certain districts might not be Ed Excellence itself, the brand Ed Excellence, but maybe the teachers and the leadership that is provided. So I ask you, do you feel like, because those teachers would still be able to should still be able to do that same, get the same results, and still be able to help their students without the brand of Ed Excellence doing it for them. And in this way, and as you can see in the 9 letters that I provided, as well as the additional 20 that I can send you if you would like afterwards, all from, and those are just the ones I got in less than 24 hours as a board member who volunteers and has a day job. And so that really goes to show that it's an issue throughout our whole district, not just the one. And I would also like to point out that of the 3 letters that we received from the district, 2 of them are the same letter, just printed in different ways. And so they literally say the exact same thing. And so I would really like to thank everybody who spoke, but I'd also like to say that all the great feedback that we have from our mentorship program, and especially if we're talking about maintaining our teachers and keeping them with us, I think that investing in the mentorship program and doing personal development internally can help us retain our teachers better, as well as provide better quality to our students. And keep them in mind first, rather than having teachers spend so much time on data teams.
Adam? Oh, nope. I'm sorry. So, okay. I couldn't see your hand up. So, Rachel, we're actually into, the Roberts rules. So I don't know that we can take questions.
Yeah, I think, you're at that part now.
Okay.
In deliberation.
Okay. So go ahead, Rachel.
So I had a question, and this is, I'm fairly agnostic on Ed Excellence, and in many ways, generally think in-house has its advantages over contracting out. But I'm really confused about the $300,000 and how this actually fits in the budget, because I thought that most of the funding for Ed Excellence came from Title I and Title II funds, which aren't part of the general fund. And so I'm not clear whether we're talking about taking $300,000 out of some line item in the general fund budget, or whether we're talking about making a recommendation about how funds outside of the general fund are used. And if that's the case, is that something that is really part of this process? Or, my other understanding is that most title funds have their own processes for how the decision-making around allocation goes that are different from this process in the general fund. So, I'm very confused in this about whether we're talking about something in the general fund or whether we're talking about something outside of the general fund.
Okay, we can get clarification, I believe, from
So
Mike or the.
let me just give quick clarification on that. The Ed Excellence is funded in our Title IIA program at $235,000 and Title IA, which is $102,250. The Title II dollars have previously been used for district instructional mentors, and so the proposal of putting district instructional mentors, exchanging those dollars would be allowable. What I will tell you is under the Title I, which is about $102,000, I'm not 100% sure it would be allowable because number one, many of those are school plans. We have some issues with a thing called supplanting funds that is illegal under the federal government, and I haven't thought through whether that would be a supplant for title. And we have already received our We haven't received approval, though, that Ed Excellence isn't allowable under both of those from ODE. So I think it's doable under Title IIA, technically doable under Title IIA. I don't believe it's technically doable under Title IA. With the knowledge I have at this point in time, we'd have to do a pretty thorough analysis. If we spend one additional dollar out of the general fund in a supplanting fashion, we risk giving all of our federal funds back. So it's a fairly hefty criteria.
But is the money, I mean, if we don't spend Title II money on Ed Excellence and we move it to the mentorship program, is allocating how Title II dollars are spent something that is part of the budget committee process? I thought that was outside the general fund, and we only dealt with the general fund.
So technically, the district is responsible for submitting our Title II plan. The federal government is fairly regulated around federal dollars, and it's never been under the purview of the budget committee or the board to actually change our Title II plan. So I don't know the technicality of that and have not researched it with ODE, but generally it's a district process, and ODE approves our title plans, both Title IA, Title II, on behalf of the federal government. And I'll tell you, we recently had all of our title programs audited, and they were at every title school in the district, and we received almost only commendations. In fact, they would say we are a model for how we expend, plan, assess, do needs assessment, and expend our Title I funds. So I don't know the technicality of that because we are the responsible party for submitting that plan. We as the district. It's not been a board or budget committee function.
Okay, so, I'm sorry, Chuck? Go ahead.
I'll be voting against this. It makes me nervous to start fiddling with Title I and 2A funds. I think that there's a huge risk involved with that, and I'm also opposed to taking the services away from the schools that we applied for those Title I and 2A funds for. They need the money, they're using it well, and I just have no support for this motion at all.
So, Adam?
Can we get a real quick clarification, because the paperwork says the Title II was the 102.
Oh, I'm sorry, did I read it incorrectly?
Which one's, is the typo?
No. Yeah, you're right, I read it wrong. 102 is Title I, or Title II, and then 235 is Title I. Okay. So I said it backwards. Yeah.
Okay.
So
So hold on, I'm gonna go back to hit.
Question about this is fine.
Did you have a follow-up, or?
Well, I had a different question, but I'll
Okay.
see the tape.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
So does that mean that 2/3 of the proposal you believe would not be allowed because it's Title I?
Correct.
But
Okay,
do you?
Adam? No, we're gonna.
Okay,
I
okay,
need you
calm
to-
down, you're okay. Thank you.
Adam?
So I guess I'm going to vote no. I think this is a proposal that is not fully thought out, and this is why. In this scenario, if we do take these funds, have we done an evaluation of the costs? What's the startup costs? What's the continuation of ed costs? What's the cost to acquire that talent to fill those roles? We do have 5 schools that are succeeding, and I think that has a lot to do with the staff that's in place, but also the support that is helping them out. What's the cost of the professional development to continue that education? There's a big reason why you use contractual services for things like this, because trying to bake that in, how many teachers did we have come and present at this talking about how they only have limited amounts of time, and trying to find out of a small dollar amount the ability to do that, to me, is not something that's possible. And that drives to the biggest point for me is what's the loss of traction based on making this change without fully thinking it through. I'm not saying that it's something that the district shouldn't look at in the future, but to do that and to try to apply that from a budget perspective right now without having the answers to all those other questions and that perspective, to me, would not be fully thought out.
Paul?
I will be voting for this because I have concerns that we kick things down the road a lot. And I don't know that what evaluation process we're using to look at this program seriously. The very things that you're talking about, Adam, We just kick it down the road. We don't have any follow-up to say that there's any evaluation being done to make sure that those other 17 schools are getting the services, that the other 17 schools, these aren't reflective of what we were passed out. We don't know. And I heard in the testimony that there were some concerns about the people who were delivering the services and overseeing the services. And I'm also concerned that we have principals who are supposed to be educational leaders, and we also have area director, level directors. I'm not sure why they can't be picking up part of these responsibilities and making sure that the same things aren't happening. And that has me concerned. Because if you can assure me, which I don't think we can at this point, that we will be doing an evaluation of these programs and they will come back next year for consideration, or even in 3 weeks, when the board is considering the vote on this, then I think I might have a different opinion. But tonight, absolutely not. We've got to take a position. We have to be responsible to our staff and the community that we are wisely using money. And I don't think you or I can honestly say that right now, because we don't know. Maybe you can, I can't.
So, sorry, I just saw.
Marty's hand was up first.
Oh.
So, we must listen to our teachers, and I certainly don't want to frustrate them. On the other hand, I think one of the big differences maybe between the schools is the particular consultant they're getting. I don't know. I used to be a consultant. I had an employer who said I was an expert at some particular type of computer. I showed up for work. I'd never seen that type of computer before. I made it work, but ever since then, when I see consultants, it's not a guarantee that they know what they're doing, right? So it's not so much really as the budget, but I would like to see the district and or the school board do some sort of evaluation to see what the problem is, what the challenge is, and if we can help those 17 schools.
Okay, so who is next?
Mark.
Mark?
So anybody who's been watching me on the budget committee is probably not surprised that I'm a data guy. I like having lots of additional information, and so when I heard the testimony this evening from the teachers who said these data teams are working, that resonated with me because that's the kind of environment that I work in professionally, where we have lots of information. We look at what it tells us, what it doesn't tell us. When we have a gap, we try and find data that can answer questions that we have. I am frustrated that this came to light relatively recently in this context, and that there seems to be a real difference of opinion within the district among teachers about whether this program is working or not. It seems to be building specific. I do think that there needs to be some kind of comprehensive evaluation. And so I don't know if this is within process or not, but I have a question. This is the superintendent's budget, and I'm wondering if we could, as a committee, if this is what it takes, allow the superintendent to respond to some of what we heard this evening and her particular perspective on ed excellence, why it's in the budget, why you believe that this is an appropriate program, and why you believe it should stay, if that's in fact your opinion at this point.
Ready? So I am going to maybe speak with a little more passion than I usually do, because I'm a little, when I look at the 5 schools on this list, and there were more that we could have added to the list, but we tried to capture 5. We can go down to every single school in our district and look at their report card ratings. But when you look at this 5 right here, it's 5 of our most challenged students in the district. 5 schools with our poorest kids, our kids in most poverty, and to sit here and say that this isn't enough about a company is actually on the verge of making me want to scream in a way you haven't heard me before. And I don't usually lose my cool, but
that's a big deal when you have Auburn Elementary that goes from a 1 to a 4, and they say, on their state report card, and they say, yes, I mean, they have some brand new teachers at Auburn. And the way we supported them, yes, our mentor program supported them. Yes, we had good leadership there, but also the way we supported them with a company with a little bit of money. We're talking $300,000 in a $1 billion budget that you're getting ready to approve. And our poorest kids in the school in this district deserve that. Richmond Elementary, a school improvement grant school, gets SIG dollars because they are one of the lowest performing schools in the state. We had 5 of the lowest performing schools in the state when I got here. In the state, we bring the state average down. And I feel bad that some of the data teams aren't working, but we have to ask ourselves the question, why aren't they working? And if support from a company like Ed Excellence will put that and help them do that, I think we owe that to them because the results show it, and our kids deserve that. Our kids deserve that. They deserve that heart from teachers. They deserve those sort of results because we're the only difference in their lives that will make the difference between here and graduation. So we have one chance. We have one chance to get it right, and it's $300,000. And if you want, as a board, to put every single school up here and see where they are, we'll take them one by one and show results. And like I said, I feel bad that there are schools that the data teams aren't working. It doesn't mean we should quit talking about how to make data teams work, but at the budget committee level, it's not the place.
So I'm going to see first if there are comments from others. Oh, okay, Paul.
I appreciate your passion, Superintendent Perry. However, they've been with us for 4 years. We have schools where the data teams aren't working. What are we going to do to make those work? And if not here, where? Because the reports don't come to us on the board. We're not seeing the day-to-day get into it. This is the first time a lot of these people have come forward. So if not now, when and what?
So one additional comment, that originally when data team or when Ed Excellence began working for us, they worked with only our targeted schools. That was our 5 lowest performing schools, the lowest performing schools in the state. And that's why you see schools that have shown, because there's been more time with Ed Excellence. So I could list those 4 focus schools. You've received them in multiple reports as board members. And what I'll say is, I have never been a superintendent that when the board asked for something, I didn't provide it to them. So the fact that it's here now, that's not on me.
Ooh.
All right. Okay. So,
Madam Chair?
yes.
Hey, it's Kathleen.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So, just so folks know, Kathleen had to leave, but she is on her. She's on the phone. Kathleen, I don't know that people realize you left. So, but Kathleen is on the phone. So, did you want to go ahead and discuss the motion, Kathleen?
Are we still talking about edX?
We are.
Okay. Yeah, just a comment. To have such disparity in results with this program says to me that edX needs to be evaluated. However, I don't think that it's the budget committee's purview to do that. I think it should be done at the board level, and they need to analyze why it is that some schools are very, very successful and teachers are cheering this program on, and we have other schools that are not successful. So this seems to me to be a board concern, and I would suggest that the board members should look into that further and request more information and maybe a more detailed analysis, but I don't think this is a budget committee appropriate conversation.
Okay. Great. Thank you. So I saw Jim.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I won't be supporting this for the reasons that Kathleen just said. This is on us as the board, and we need to get a report from our superintendent on the 22 Title I schools that are receiving services from Ed Excellence. We have 5 that have showed up here that have done pretty well, that were low performing. I'd like to know where the other 17 are, And I also, this is the first time I've heard about it. And I've heard from teachers now that have said, we got problems with it. And I heard from teachers who said it is working fabulously in their school and they don't want to see it go away. If we do this, we will take it away from their school, because that's a big cut to this program. And I think what we need to do as a board is request that we have information provided to us on an evaluation of this program on a going forward basis, so that when this comes up next year on the budget, or we need to make decisions on a going forward basis, the board has that information. All due respect to you that serve on the budget committee, that's board work at the highest level. And I have to agree with Kathleen, because we have to hold our superintendent accountable for this. And I want to hear from teachers. I haven't heard from anybody, Jesse, other than people who've testified here.
Call for the question.
Okay. Pardon?
Call for the question.
No, I think there are folks of us that haven't gotten to speak yet, so.
Okay.
So, Kathy?
So this feels to me an awfully lot like team teaching that I came out of, that I was trained in and spent years in. And to be frank with you, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And a lot of it is the makeup of the team that's there. And I wonder if, I would like to see it passed, or I'm sorry, I will not vote for it for this year, because we haven't had time to analyze what's going on. But I'd like to suggest that schools who can come up with a program should be able to petition the board to do something different. And if they want to try that for a year, I see no reason why not. And something that's working for them that they aren't getting out of the excellence program. But that's just me. I can't consider taking away from the people that depend on it, and truly think it's great. If it's great for them, we ought to keep them using it.
Okay, so I'm still calling on folks who haven't had a chance to speak yet. So we will come, because you made the motion, we can come back to you, but I want to give other committee members who haven't spoke yet the opportunity. So Marcia.
So it appears that the 5 schools that have done really well would mean that there's $60,000 approximately going to each one of those schools. And we're concerned about 3rd grade reading, and we're concerned about graduation, especially in the earlier grades, because they reset the patterns, I suppose you could say. So for that reason, I won't be supporting it, but I agree that it's probably really not a budget committee issue, it's a board issue.
Levy?
I'm ready for the question once it's.
So how does this work?
Oh, yeah, no, you just, you hang on to it.
I hang on.
Yeah. And
Well, last
you
minute
can-
was I needed to pass the.
Oh, no,
gavel, so.
that's the other place.
So I'm able to speak as.
Oh, to pass the gavel if you want it?
Yeah.
Oh, to speak?
Yes.
Okay, so he's the chair now. Oh, got it.
I don't know Robert's rules of order, so.
So you just hold on to it for a minute while I speak to the motion, because, so I agree that this is definitely a board issue. I think that questions and concerns have been raised, but I also think that there have been some statements made that we don't have all of the information. And, I heard comments like failure of data teams, and those kind of comments bother me. I'm concerned that we're proposing moving funds from Title I and Title II, that, as somebody who's audited federal and state spending, that makes me incredibly nervous. I don't know that we really know the impact of what that move would be, and I think Adam mentioned we don't have a plan for what we would do differently. Yes, I think we need it as a board to take a closer look at this, but this is, I don't think a prudent use of $300,000 that we know is working for the schools that came and the teachers that came and spoke to us about how well it's working. So I'm not supporting this as well. Okay. Is there anyone else that wanted to speak to the motion? Let's check, because we had a question on the phone, but I don't know that,
I mean, my take on it is very similar to Kathleen's and Kathy's, so I'm a no, but I don't think I need to add much.
okay, thank you. Anybody else? Jesse?
Yes. Okay. So first, I would like to say that I would like us all to keep in mind that as the budget committee is going, if you really think about what we're all doing here, I mean, think about it. We're all volunteers who have other jobs and we do other things, right? So none of us would be here if we didn't truly care about kids. And as a kid who came from poverty, who came from foster care, and who's actually at one point of your life had to eat out of a trash can to have food, I think it's, I would say arrogant maybe to assume that people would make a motion with the intent of taking away from kids who are at a disadvantage. Now I understand the passion behind helping those who haven't had a chance in life. I completely get that. In fact, I feel that same passion. Now the issue isn't whether or not any of us have bad intentions. That's not the issue at all. The issue isn't that we're wanting to take money away from Title I and Title II schools. The issue is not to take away from Auburn or to take away from any of them. The issue was whether or not the Ed Excellence themselves were necessary in that part of the process. Now, if people feel that they are, then that's completely fine. The whole point of this budget process is to talk about the budget and just think things through, right? And so this isn't a proposal to take away from our kids. In fact, those Title I dollars and Title II dollars could be for mentors for those Title I and Title II schools. Now, if you don't agree that they should go there and that Ed Excellence is more effective, then vote for that. I mean, of course. But the argument wasn't to take away from Title I and Title II schools, so I don't want that to be out there. The argument was many teachers feel that there are better ways to do things, as well as it's typically for most companies having internal processes rather than outsourcing to certain people can sometimes benefit a district. And so the whole point of this is not to undermine our district. It's not to take away from Title I and Title II schools, but to instead rethink about the way that we're using our funds. So by taking the Title I and Title II funds to pay for mentors, that's completely fine. Now, it doesn't have to be $300,000. Now, let's just say that we can't move the Title I funds, right? Let's just say that that's the case. We should be able to have the wiggle room to instead just use the Title II funds that we think we can move, right? And so if for some reason you feel as if we shouldn't move either, that's completely fine. But I think that we shouldn't be so set in our ways that we lose sight of the bigger picture inside of students. And because I know from experience from being a student that a lot of times many students feel as if we're getting pushed through this giant factory into a college. And I know so many of my friends right now who are drowning in college debt because they feel like it's one big giant system pushing us through. And so I want us to really start thinking about students first rather than necessarily what helps us first. And then also really keep the students in mind when we're making choices. And that's what this decision was. Now, if we feel like it's board work instead of budget work, that's completely fine. I just want to make sure that we don't lose sight of the fact, A, we're a team, and also that we're keeping students in mind when we do this. And I also want to thank you guys for your thoughts as well.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and call for the vote. So all those in favor of reallocating the $300,000 from Ed Excellence contract to the mentor program, raise your hand. And those of you on the phone, if you're in favor, please signify by saying aye. Okay. So we had 2 votes in favor. So moving on to number 2, this was Kathleen's proposal to fully fund. Kathleen, are you still on the phone?
So,
Okay,
so do we
thank you.
need, I'm sorry, Chair, do we need to actually complete the vote? Because there may be abstentions. I just
Oh, yes, thank you.
do all the categories.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so hold on a second, Kathleen, sorry. So all those in favor, it was 2, and all those opposed signify by raising your hand, or if you're on the phone, please signify by same sign.
No.
Okay, and those abstaining? Okay. And we have one abstention. 14? Okay. Okay, thank you, Mark. Okay, so moving on to number 2, Kathleen's proposal to fully fund with the fund, so the additional $150,000 coming from the contingency to fund the school-based health assistance. So Kathleen, if you'd like to go ahead and speak to your motion.
So is the motion already presented, or do I need to move?
You need to make the motion, I'm sorry.
So I make the motion that additional $150,000 from the contingency fund is allocated towards the student-based health assistance program.
Second.
Okay. Motion made by Kathleen and seconded by Marty. Kathleen, now please go ahead and speak to your motion.
Okay, as I mentioned before, I think there's good reason to ensure that for student safety, student health, district responsibilities, and equity, that we fully fund these positions. That has been requested by numerous very well-spoken and passionate public testimony.
Okay, thank you. Are there others that would like to speak to the motion? Sorry, I saw Jesse.
Yep. I think Jim has his hand up before me.
I just had a question.
Okay.
And it's more of
Go
a
ahead.
question for Mike on contingencies, because we have 3 or 4 different contingency funds within the budget. I would call them contingency
Okay.
funds. I'm wondering, is this coming out of code 6000 contingencies in our budget book? On page 98 is where I'm looking, committee, with regard to operating contingency. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that current number is 21,857,451, and this would reduce that by roughly 150 to 160
Correct.
thousand, not 150 to 160, but 150 to 160,000. Okay. I just wanted clarification on where it was coming from.
Good point.
Thanks.
Okay, Jesse?
Oh, sure. I would just would like clarification. The contingency fund, what is that typically used for?
Emergencies, in areas where we might have unexpected things, so it's like a bank account, but whatever's unused rolls to the ending fund balance, which rolls to the beginning fund balance for revenue the next year.
Okay.
So part of the reason you see the beginning fund balance as it is in here is because of underspending in the contingency too.
Got it. And do we typically use it all, or like no? throughout
No,
the year?
because the goal is that it rolls forward into the
rolls forward.
beginning fund balance, because that's part of your revenue for the next year. But it is there for emergencies. So if we had a major emergency of some sort, I would come to the board asking for a request to use contingency. So you'd track that and watch that.
Okay.
Okay. Chuck?
I'll be supporting this. I think I've been on this budget committee for 10 years, and I think the testimony we've had on this has probably been the most compelling and reasonable request that I've seen over the 10 years. And I support Kathleen's arguments that she's proposed. And like I said, I'll be voting for this, especially considering the size of our contingency budget. And this is $150,000 well spent.
Okay, great. Virginia?
Marty was raised before me, or do you want me to go?
Go ahead.
Just go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Sorry,
I'll get back.
I
Thank
just,
you.
just adding the contingency questions, what is like an example of things that we've used it for in the past, being that this is my first year?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So in the past, years ago, we had some curriculum, some math curriculum that we brought to the board, and the only way to use a contingency is with board resolution. And so it's not a fund that we as a district decide, but we'll bring recommendations and proposals. But as Superintendent Perry said, if there is an emergency as well, like let's say we had a flood or whatever, we needed to push money out into a school facility unexpected, then we have the contingency fund as well.
Okay, thank you.
Marty?
So I'm going to support this. Not only have we heard really compelling testimony from different office workers, I was visiting a school in recent history. While I was there, the office manager was trying to check me in while had a student waiting for medication, and I told her numerous times, take care of your student, I can wait. And then at the same time, somebody brought in carrying a student who was maybe not conscious.
Others? Kathy?
Do I recall something been in the back of my brain that may or may not be true? So I'll ask, is there a state recommended contingency? There's something there.
No, there's no
No?
state recommended contingency. The board has established a financial policy that our ending fund balance, of which contingency is a part of.
Right.
The target is between 5 and 7% of total resources.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to pass this. And so I was going to comment as well. I think over this last year, or even before we moved into the budget process, we heard from lots and lots of folks, very compelling. And I know we've heard this, through the legislative process too, about the lack of the number of nurses in our districts and how these folks have really had to step up, and the concerns and the risk. But they do it because they love their students. But I think we've been, we all recognize that we placed them at risk, and on some level we placed our children at risk. So I fully support this as well.
Could I make one clarifying? So the state doesn't offer a contingency level, but in the board policy, along with the ending fund balance target, there is a requirement that our contingency be at least 1%.
1%, thank
Yep.
you.
Jesse?
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to say that I will be voting for this motion, just because I think it's hugely important, especially in a country where drugs and opioids have really become a problem, and it's affecting our entire nation rather than just simply our schools. And so I think that ensuring the best safety and security for our students within our own district, I think, is hugely important. And so I fully recommend this.
I will be supporting this as well, and I think we have a big liability issue if we're understaffed and have a problem with a child that doesn't go well, and I think we have no business taking that risk, so I also will support it.
Okay. I was going to check in with Rachel on the phone.
Yeah, I just had a question about the contingency level. So if we take this money out of the contingency, you talked about the board aiming for a 5 to 7% ending fund balance. Would this bring us anywhere close to not meeting that?
No. I think our contingency is right around, 4.5, a little less than that, which is typically higher than we've had in past budgets.
Yeah,
So
I
remember
think
that-
it's a little bit lower than last year. I just looked at that.
Okay. So remember, the contingency is part of the ending fund balance. The other part is the underspending in the general fund. So between the two, we've built this budget, we believe, to come within the 5 to 7% target for ending fund balance.
I mean, like everyone else or most people who've spoken, I found the case of the public health money very compelling, and I think since it's a relatively small expenditure and it doesn't threaten the contingency levels that are established by board policy, I would support the motion.
Thank you. Other comments before we call for the vote? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and call for the vote. So all those in favor of the motion, please signify by raising your hand, and if you're on the phone, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Did we hear two?
Unanimous.
Okay, so we heard two on the phone.
I only heard one.
I only heard one. Okay, well then I'll,
Was that Kathleen or Rachel on the phone?
Yes, I'm an aye. This is Kathleen.
Okay, Rachel?
Aye.
okay, thank you. So that passes unanimously, so 14.
this one.
Madam Chair?
Yes, great.
I would, I think we're at the point where we can adopt this budget then. So I would make a motion that on May 22nd, 2018, that the Budget Committee of the Salem Keizer School District 24J-32 Marion Polk Counties, Oregon approves the budget as amended by the Budget Committee with our last action for the 2018-19 fiscal year in the amount of $1,147,797,142 and approves property taxes for the 2018-19 fiscal year at the rate of $4.5210 per $1,000 of assessed value for the permanent tax rate levy in support of the general fund, and in the amount of $54,434,888 for the general obligation bond levy.
Second.
Second, who was that? Adam? We have a second to the motion. So all those in favor of the motion?
I'd like to discuss the motion if we could.
Okay. Yes.
I think what you all heard and saw was frustration with the amount of resources the district has. We'd all like to do everything we could for our kids, for our staff, and for this community. If I've got a 1 or 2 year teacher in this district and they want a mentor, I want to make sure we try to do that. If a district and staff are working with data teams and it's working for them, I want to make sure that works. If we need to do something with third grade reading, with our adoption, again, don't get me on our reading adoption, but, or we need to do something with our math adoption, and we need to bring back graduation coaches and Saturday academies, I'm all for that. The problem is, even with a $1.1 billion budget, we can't do it all. And we've had to make some hard choices, and I appreciate the debate and the discussion, and I just wish we could do all that. But this is the best we've got right now with where we're at today.
Chuck?
Yes, I'll be voting in favor of this, but I want to declare a potential conflict of interest. I have no fiscal advantage to this, but I am closely associated with CTEC and Mountain West, and even though my salary is not included in this budget and I have no financial interest, just because of my close association with CTEC, I just wanted to declare a potential conflict of interest, but I will participate in discussion and vote.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I also need to declare a potential conflict of interest. Part of the dues for the association that I'm the executive director come from all districts, but part of it does come from the Salem Keizer School District. And under the advice of counsel, Paul DeCopoulos for the district, I've been instructed I can vote, but I do need to declare that potential conflict.
Okay. So we have two declarations of potential conflict of interest. Thank you, both. Okay. Other comments before we call for the vote? Go ahead.
I'd
Chuck?
just like to
Chuck.
compliment the chair on running a very good process. I know it hasn't been
Slightly
easy, but
bumpy.
I think for your first time as board chair or a budget chair, you've done a fine job, and thank you for your service and leadership.
Thank you.
And I think we'd also be remiss if we didn't thank staff
Yes.
for all the work on the multiple questions that came from us. And I think, Sarah, this was your first time through a budget with us.
It was second.
Second time? Was this the second time? Maybe it just feels like the first time because it was that painful, so. But I do want to thank Mike and his staff for all the work on the budget.
I would like to also thank everybody for all of you guys' hard work, and thank you for putting up with us, and thank you for everybody in the audience for listening and really taking the time out of your day to come listen to the budget, as great and as entertaining as that is. So I just want to take time to thank you guys, and also thank our staff as well as all of our budget committee members for taking the time out of your day for this.
Great. Okay. So we'll go ahead and call for the vote. So all those in favor of the motion to approve the budget signify by raising your hand, or if you're on the phone, by saying aye.
Aye.
I think it was both.
You want to check on the phone to make sure?
I think it was both.
Kathleen? I'm an aye. Rachel? Aye.
Okay. Okay. And so all those opposed? Okay. So 2. So the motion passes, and we have officially approved the Salem Keizer School District budget. Thank you very much. And I think with that, we're adjourned.